aggressive on the offensive end, but this is the time they can...
Williams, the D-Hop. Fox, goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Pretty good game going on right now. I mean, it's preseason. The starters obviously have long left the floor, but, you know, for a preseason game, it's close, and it's been going back and forth, and the Warriors currently with the lead, 109 to 106 with 16 seconds left. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about yourself on this beautiful Friday night?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing well myself, and I got to tell you, I really like DeMar DeRozan. You can see he's going to be really good for this Kings team. He's going to fill a void that I think the Kings have had for many years. And I think in the fourth quarter in particular, in close games, the Kings are going to be very, very difficult to defend.
Yeah, they are, Grant. And there were times during the second quarter when you could see the starters were getting a little fatigued. The offense was getting away from them. Where did they go? DeMar DeRozan. They went to some ISO. It slowed down. That is something the Kings have been missing for the last 2 years.
There's no question about that. And, you know, I know we're also talking about a guy that's a good free throw shooter. And how many times did we come on after a game last year talking about a loss because the Kings shot poorly at the line?
Way too many times, and not enough opportunities. Additionally to that, Grant, the opportunities were few and far between. DeMar gives you that stamp of credibility, and overall, the Kings have been a little bit better from the line in the preseason thus far.
You know, I'm nitpicking here, but I still want to see Keegan Murray become more consistent with that three-point shot. It was too erratic last year, and again, it's preseason, so I'm not. And I like what I see from him. I mean, I think he's already shown in this brief preseason his improvement from year 2 to what this will be year 3. But I want to see that shot, particularly the perimeter shot, be more consistent. And I'm not even necessarily talking about season percentages. I'm talking about game to game to game.
I'm not so worried about the consistency. I'm worried about the hesitancy. There were a couple times that he's given up, not so much tonight, but the night before on Wednesday, gave up those looks that he should have shot. But Grant, tonight, I thought that he did great playmaking, getting to the rim, didn't settle for his jump shot. But yeah, throughout the season, both those things need to be there.
And he got to the line 8 times, you know, and he made 6 of them. And I love to see that. Get to the foul line. You're able to do it. Get to the line.
He set the tone for me defensively again tonight. He is your guy defensively. He can guard pretty much anyone on the court, but offensively tonight, he was not settling. He was going strong, getting to the lane, and shows by the 8 free throws, as you said.
All right, we'd love to have you join us here on the post game. The links, the QR codes, it is all there for you. So give us a shout, and we'll put you on, and we can talk about this as well. And even though this is a post-game show, we have the Dodgers moving on. They'll take on the Mets. So if you want to mix in a little baseball, we can do that. Football, we saw the 49ers last night roll over the Seahawks. Too many mistakes for your Seahawks. Just too many mistakes.
Way too many mistakes. And they got a gift from the NFL Replay Center, too.
Yeah. You know what? Isn't that the truth or what? How awful is that, huh?
That can't happen, Grant. It just can't. Unless you're in Seattle. When there's night games in Seattle, weird things happen, my friend.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's brutal. I mean, it really is. So, all right, let's get back to basketball.
Yeah.
I know it's only 2 games and it's preseason and it's all over. The Warriors have won this game 109 to 106. Anything at all that bothering you through 2 games?
Yeah, there's a couple things that are bothering me. Certainly the defense. The defense, we knew that was going to be an issue. The second thing that's bothering me is the second unit. There is a big discrepancy when that second unit comes on the floor. And granted, it's not the same second unit we're going to see once the season starts. But tonight, even with the starters, the offense got pushed out a little bit. They weren't attacking the men rather than getting to spots. So things like that. How about yourself?
I'm not worried about the bench right now. You know, Monk didn't play tonight. You don't have Kevin Huerter yet. And assuming that Huerter comes off the bench, that's going to give you some nice firepower coming off the bench. The Kings are a little thin right now without Trey Lyles.
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned based on what I think the bench is going to look like on opening night. You know, I think come opening night against Minnesota, I think the bench will be fine. And, I think the real interesting aspect is, when is Kevin Huerter going to be on the floor, and what role will he have?
Well, he got
I
cleared.
wonder how Mike Brown's going to find a role for him this year.
Yeah, he was cleared today for full contact. We'll see if it's going to be a slow process. You're going to take the training wheels off. Maybe you slip him in towards the end of the preseason. But I guess to further my point, Grant, the whole Sacramento offense is based around positionless basketball, right? And that works with your starting five, but we're seeing that doesn't necessarily work with the second unit. So is it going to be a different scheme? Can Kevin fit into that? Trey Lyles the same?
They're going to have to, because if not, the Kings team won't be very good this year. They're all going to have to buy into their roles. It's a very good point about positionless basketball. That's really true for most teams in the NBA right now among the starters. I mean, we always go, point guard, shooting guard, small forward. So many of these players now are interchangeable, and you see so many guard-oriented lineups on the floor. We see teams go small, right?
Yes,
and we
absolutely.
see some teams go big, but more times than not, you always hear Jerry talk about this, right? Kings are going to go small. They're going to put 3 or 4 guards on the floor, basically, and just try to outscore the other team. And I think you're going to see that a lot this year, Rhino. I think we have to be very frank here. The Kings' bread and butter, their identity this year, it's going to be offense. It's not going to be defense. Don't be kidding yourself this year. It's going to be, can we outscore the other team, roll the ball out? How many points can we put up on the board? Not how many points did we allow?
It's a great point, Grant. I would not expect what we saw the second half of the season to the degree that we saw it defensively, but the physicality is going to still play into it, whether it's on the defensive end or the offensive end. I thought Wednesday night, the starters played really well, physical without fouling. Tonight, a little bit of a different story. Golden State has had as many free throws at the half as they had all game on Wednesday night. So how do they mix that in? And I'll kick this to you. The Kings ran the zone at the start of the second quarter, which spurred a run by the Kings 21-6. And I thought that looked really good. Something Jerry has talked about as well this offseason.
I think you're going to see more of that this year. I would agree with that. What's your take on the Warriors early on through 2 games?
I think they play hard. I don't know what they're going to look like, though. They look young, number one. And number two, they're small, just like the Kings, Grant. They're going to be kind of that same mold, same kind of offense. But Steph Curry looks like Steph Curry still. So I guess
he's unbelievable, isn't he?
He's unbelievable. The wild card, and I'll kick this to you, Andrew Wiggins. Who's going to show up for him?
Great point.
Good
Warriors,
Andrew Wiggins.
The Warriors, the Warriors are a team that I'm very confident in saying right now are below the Kings.
Yes.
When I look at the forecast in the West, right? I can't, like, the Kings to me clearly are a better roster and a better team. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree. Look at how many times they turned the ball over tonight, Grant. The turnovers were out of control, specifically in the first half.
So I'm looking at the forecast for this season. An injury or two could change that, but the Warriors are going to have a difficult time, to me, being one of the top 8 teams in the West this year, just like last year. I don't see it happening, Ryan. I just don't. In order for that to happen, Curry's going to have to play 75 games and be Steph Curry for 70 of those 75 games. I mean, he is their team for all intents and purposes, and we've seen he's missed quite a bit of action over the last 2 years in particular. The attrition, the wear and tear, the injuries. The Warriors are not going to win many games without Steph Curry on the floor.
Oh, no, it's going to be a long road if you do not have Steph Curry. I don't care about Trace Jackson Davis. I don't care about Brandon Pajemski, Moody, Kuminga. That's going to be a difficult ask. But again, do the Warriors go out? This has been a big discussion point, Grant, and try to put something around Curry. There is still time, still got the deadline, etc.
I can't answer this question because I wasn't watching Sam Mitchell, but I heard a lot of comments about his commentary. Did you see it at all?
I did. Are we talking about the pregame on NBA TV?
I believe it was that, and if I'm not mistaken, halftime. But go ahead. Maybe it was pregame.
It was very, very weird. He went after, and I'm not sure who the other gentleman was, but the amount of money that he's made. He said, you're renting your house out during the hurricane. And it was awkward. There were a few pauses, and it took me like, is this real? Is this kayfabe or is this real?
I didn't see it, so I can't comment on it. I did not see it.
Very
I
odd.
was referring to the comments that he made that were very negative about the Kings. Did you catch any of that?
I did not catch that. No.
Okay, that's so I can't really comment on that. But I wish I had more information for you. But I'm bringing it up because I did see a lot of comments on my social media platforms about Sam Mitchell, but I did not see it. So sorry.
Little bit weird. I'm sure if you go to Awful Announcing, it will definitely show up. We want you guys to call the show. QR code's on the screen. Also, it is pinned to the chat. In fact, let's kick that off. Dirk, welcome in. You're on with Grant and Reno.
Hey guys, long time no chat.
How are you?
Happy the Kings are back, man. I've been waiting. So I'm loving that chemistry between DDR and Sabonis. I'm hoping somebody else can get in on that. So that's three guys who really work well together. I'm really liking Isaac Jones. I can see that offensive rebound and why people are high on him. Like he seems to fill kind of a I would say like an effort. You know, he's larger than I thought he was, but I could see him growing a bit. On the other side of things, Colby Jones looks really bad right now.
I agree, Dirk.
I'm worried because I thought he was a smart guy. I thought he would figure it out, but he just seems like lost, like not really having much of an impact at all. But man, I'm excited.
I'm not worried about it. You're not going to your season does not depend on how Colby Jones does. So honestly, to me, it's a non-concern. I unless you have a rash of injuries, Colby Jones isn't playing. So I wouldn't spend too much time on Colby Jones.
Well, I'm not stressing it on it, Grant, but I'd like that if you can get a guy that just plays well above where you drafted him and he just grows to something, that's a valuable asset because he's cheap and he produces at a high level. You can spend money on bigger name players because you get such a value by it. Like Keon Ellis, for example, is only $2 million. And for me, he's cemented himself as the starting position in his role. But anyway, this is my own personal thoughts.
I understand. To me, I've always said this. In the NBA, you win and lose basically with 10 players. He's not one of your top 10 players. And so to me, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. And you really, for all intents and purposes, you win and lose with your top 9 players, and some would even say 8. But your guys at the end of your bench, they may win you a game during the course of a year, but it's not going to determine your success or lack thereof. That's been my experience. Could I be wrong? Could somebody pop up and surprise you? Yes, but that's generally been my experience of watching players at the end of NBA benches. And there are exceptions. There are some guys that don't play, and then get their opportunity, and then all of a sudden become part of the rotation. That does happen from time to time.
Nate, 9 times out of 10, I would agree with you, but this is the time that I'm kind of questioning it. Not just Colby, but who's in that spot behind Malik and behind De'Aaron, because Devin Carter isn't being reevaluated until February, and clearly Mike is looking to see who is in that Davion Mitchell role, and it hasn't been Mason Jones yet. He has hustled. No. He has not played great, but to me, Boogie Ellis looks like he deserves minutes over both Mason Jones and Colby Jones, but again, very early in the process.
And the other aspect is we don't watch practice. And because of,
I know.
And the reason why I say that is because of the limited looks that we've had with all of these guys, and I'm really talking about the coaching staff. They're evaluating practice maybe as much, if not more, than what they're seeing in these preseason games with the players that we just mentioned.
Great point. And Dirk, I didn't include McLaughlin because he's not available right now.
Right.
No, exactly. I couldn't come up with the name, but Grant, when you think about small market teams, when you think about those who have won championships, they have to draft superstars. I mean, Milwaukee, the Bucks would be one, right? So you have to sort of be innovative as a small market, in my opinion. If you're trying to do something,
Tim Duncan, San Antonio, Giannis, Milwaukee, you're spot on. I would agree with you 100% there.
But and then there's this possibility that you have, let's say, not the A+ guy, but you have a bunch of A-, B+, And then you get a guy, in theory, that just plays above where he drafts, blossoms into this player. In the modern small market, I think there's a pathway forward. So I know it's
Yes,
I'm
there are.
always
I'll give you
hopeful
an
that
example.
these guys
Isaiah
will-
Thomas was that player. He was taken 60th in the draft and
Absolutely.
became an MVP candidate. Unfortunately, it wasn't with Sacramento. It was with Boston. But he was taken the last player taken in the draft and ended up being an all-star. So, yeah, it does happen from time to time. Nikola Jokic is a great example with the Denver Nuggets. I mean, they thought he could be good when they drafted him, but nobody thought he would be the, multi MVP player and championship guy and regarded as maybe the best player in the world. So yes, it does happen.
One question for you, Grant, just because you have a lot more insight, and then I'll get off so other people can talk. But what is it that makes some of these guys excel and just fall off the map? Like people who just
Very
never
simple.
work out.
Right here, heart and work ethic. That's the difference.
Maybe it's been easy for them up until this point, and then suddenly it's challenge, and it's because Ryan, you and I were talking about Slauson a lot last year, like this potential, and then he's gone. I mean, that was again, we're trying to find diamonds in the rough here, right? Like something that evolves, but
well. Dirk, you kind of have to with this new CBA. That is one of the big things. In fact, you look at the GM survey, one of the first things the GMs want changed in the NBA, if they could, is the current CBA.
Yeah, and this is what last thing OKC. I forget the guy's name. They just signed him to like a 5-year budget contract. I can't believe he accepted. He's 27 years old, but he was a G League prospect, and I mean he looked great in the playoffs, just coming off the bench for a little extra. Like I think he was given like 6 to 8 points a game, and I was just, man, that guy's going to take a contract through his prime that just doesn't give the value. I really want to take a flyer on him, but I can't remember his name at the moment. Anyway, I'm excited. Good to see you guys again. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you too, Dirk. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate the feedback. There's always going to be players that blossom that you don't think will ever blossom. I mean, it happens. That's part of why we watch sports. And conversely, there are other players, Thomas Robinson, Marvin Bagley, right? I mean, go on and on, where you think, oh, wow, they're going to be really, really good. They're top 5 picks, and they end up being basically not effective in the league. If teams didn't make mistakes, everyone would have a good team. But mistakes are made every year, and they'll continue to be made. That's part of sports. Same thing in the NFL.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And on top of that's where the player development comes in. That's where the coaching comes in. That's where the G League comes in. That's where you got to get your minutes.
Hey, I want to tell you about New Works Plumbing. They've got a fixed view. They are available around the clock 24/7. Just go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call that number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fixed view. Remember, all of your plumbing needs and repairs, sackserviceplumbing.com. That's New Works Plumbing. And hey, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, how about brunch at Bennett's? Whether it's Sacramento, Roseville, or the West Side Grill in Rockland, just go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com, make a reservation of more prime seafood and steak at Bennett's. That's right, Bennett'sRestaurants.com. And guess what? I am looking for a rant with Grant. So give me some rant ideas, and I'll give you a rant coming up a little bit later in the show right here on If You Don't Like That.
Feeling ranty, huh, buddy? You ready to go?
I got to get ready for the weekend,
Yeah, send us off right, baby.
Yes.
I do have to say, Grant, some of the points that Mike Brown's really been pushing so far in training camp, and something the Kings were really good last year at, offensive rebounding, 12th in the NBA, and they were second in keeping their opponents off the offensive boards. Tonight at halftime, the Kings had 9 offensive rebounds. The Warriors only had 2 turnovers for the Kings, low. Turnovers high for the Warriors, with the Kings capitalizing on that. So there is some good and positive happening in these first couple preseasons.
Yeah, but also look at the lineup. You mentioned the Warriors are not big. They don't have a lot of size, right? And so you should get offensive rebounds. Plus, the Warriors, to me, have been one of the more puzzling teams, particularly the last 2 years. They have turned the ball over an inordinate amount of time. And many of those are unforced turnovers. It's mind-boggling to me when I watch the Warriors.
Grant, I don't even know if it's just the last couple of years thing. I think it's been for a little bit longer than that, but they were good enough to make up for it. Their pace was so high. They got more possessions. You had more talent on the floor, but they're not that good. anymore to be able to make that gap up.
All right. Again, give us a shout or send us a message on the chat line. We're happy to have you here on the post game as the Kings and the Warriors have finished their 2 preseason games. And I got to tell you, I'm just looking at DeMar DeRozan. You know, the word I will use for him is smooth. He's so smooth, isn't he?
Yeah, he is polished, just
Yep.
genuine, composed, however you want to put it. It's almost, I use this example. It's like he finally gives the Kings that stamp of credibility, Grant. It's like you have, okay, Fox, all-star. You've got Domas, all-star, but they're small market all-stars. He comes onto this team and he makes everybody else a little bit more dangerous on the court because of his vision and playmaking.
Lydia chiming in. Lydia, don't worry about whether they won or lost the game. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. So I don't get too concerned about how they lost the game and why they lost the game. It's inconsequential. Yeah. It doesn't mean a damn thing. So the only thing you look at here in the preseason are your main guys and then a couple of the players that we've talked about that you're hoping can fill a role on the bench. But don't worry about what happened in the fourth quarter of a preseason game. It really means nothing. And anyone that tells you otherwise is kind of pulling the wool over your eyes. It just doesn't mean much.
And don't forget Kings without Malik Monk tonight. That yes. makes a difference with that bench too. Yeah,
of course. You know, I don't ever pay attention to preseason records. I never pay attention to what happens in the fourth quarter unless the starters of both teams are on the floor, which will happen occasionally. But you know what Mike Brown's doing in the fourth quarter? He's looking at who's going to make the team and who's not going to make the team. That's what he's judging it on.
That's exactly right. He said after the first preseason game, the young guys probably were a little tired, a little fatigued. That's why the execution wasn't there. And Grant, you and I have talked about this leading up to the game starting in the preseason. Different shape from off season to training camp to actually playing NBA games, whether it is regular season or not.
No question about that. And here we are on the second week of October. And before you know it, we're going to be on pregame, halftime, and postgame talking about the Kings and the Timberwolves. I here right before you know it.
I cannot wait. Make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of that. And if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up right now. Give us a repost if you're watching on the X. Scan the QR code. That'll get you subscribed. Also, don't forget, you can take us on with you on the go. Go to grantnapier.com, or if you don't like that.com, you can download all the audio from If You Don't Like That.
Yeah, we got it going on. All right. So Flores says top 9, Fox, Sabonis, Keon Murray, DeMar, Herter, Monk, Alex, and Lyles. Who else after that will play in games? Well, I can't put Trey Lyles in there just yet.
Yeah.
Because he's got to get on the floor. So he will be eventually, but I can't do it right now. What do you think about that, Ryan?
I think that 10th, 11th spot completely up for grabs. Yep. I don't think it's Jalen McDaniels, number one. I have not seen a lot out of him, although coach has talked about him in practice. If I had to say somebody, Isaac Jones, but remember, he's on a two-way. And he's a little bit undersized, gives you a little bit of that Chuck Hayes flavor. He did well on the offensive boards tonight, so I'm leaning that way. And Grant, we still have to see Jordan McLaughlin.
That's right. So, because he is going to be in that rotation based on everything that we have heard and what the franchise is expecting, correct? I mean, he's exactly going to be one of those guys.
Yeah, Monty McNair has not been shy about mentioning his name, why he brought him in. And, he's a guy that could have a little chip on his shoulder, Grant. Didn't get a ton of playing time in Minnesota. Maybe he comes in ready to go. And that's been a common theme of this preseason is the Kings having a chip on their shoulder.
Well, that's good because last year they didn't make the playoffs. So they better have a chip on their shoulder because they were not one of the top 8 teams last year. And if they're not one of the top 8 teams this year, there's going to be some people in the Kings organization on the unemployment line.
Damn right. That is a good point. Orlando Robinson. The problem is, Johnny, the MCL injury. He's out 4 weeks. The back end of this roster is complicated. You have 3 two-way guys, and some of the other guys are just on non-guaranteed contracts, such as Orlando Robinson. Also,
Yeah.
Boogie Ellis. If the Kings cut Boogie Ellis, Grant, he's not eligible to go to the G League. He has to go through the G League draft. So that's where Monty McNair, Coach Brown, they've got to make the hard decisions and get looks at these guys late in games.
I'm looking at some of the other things going around in the NBA. Klay Thompson making his Mavericks debut, and so weird seeing him in a Mavericks jersey. But I don't know what he gives the Mavs. The good Klay Thompson makes the Mavs really good, but there were too many games last year where he just did not look anything like the Klay Thompson we're accustomed of seeing.
Well, I think he gives the Mavs a lot if you can let him spot up. And you saw their spot up opportunities with that team in the playoffs last year, the NBA Finals. They just couldn't knock him down. So really, it depends on Luka and Kyrie.
Yeah, it certainly does. And they've got to be on the floor for the bulk of that. And then the other team, and we're going to get a look at them on opening night, is Minnesota with their new looks. And it's going to be very interesting. I think DiVincenzo is going to fit in beautifully with that team. I think he is just going to be absolutely really good. And I think the Knicks are going to miss him. I really think they're going to miss him.
I think they certainly will miss him. And look, Anthony Edwards plays a little chippy, plays a little cocky, and DiVincenzo has a little bit of that in him as well. I think the way that they are setting up, Grant, it's more of a traditional look. It's closer to what New York was playing, and that's where he was thriving with his Villanova brotherhood.
I just wonder about Randall and his shoulder. Again, he didn't play tonight, ruled out because of his shoulder. I just wonder when they expect him to be on the floor and going at full tilt in terms of being the Julius Randle that we were accustomed to seeing in New York.
I don't think there's any reason to rush him, Grant. The Timberwolves played well last year without Cat, and I expect the same, even if Naz Reid is stepping into that role without Randall, but it is certainly something to keep your eye on.
Chris Finch did say today before the game that Randall will play in the preseason. And their next game is Sunday. Guess who they're playing on Sunday?
The New York Knicks.
Guess. That's right.
Yeah,
you might see Randall get some action against the Knicks, but if he is effective the way he was in New York before the shoulder injury, and DiVincenzo, I think Minnesota could be the top team in the West this year. I really do. I think they're going to be really good.
I don't disagree with you. Oklahoma City, the second favorite, according to Vegas, to win the championship. And they look good with Hartenstein. I'm not sure if you've seen some of the highlights from their games, but Minnesota is right there, 1A, 1B with them. All
right. Wolf, I appreciate the support. All the devastation that I've seen in Florida has just been via the news. So like everybody else, my hearts go out to everybody that's been affected by these horrible hurricanes. So that's about all I can say. The West with Memphis, I've been hearing good things about Zach Edey, although I've also heard, he's a rookie and he'll make those rookie mistakes and then all of a sudden he'll make a play and you're like, wow. But they have high hopes for him. And I think he's going to be a real key on how effective Memphis will be, because when I look at their three-guard rotation, or four, depending on what position you play Marcus Smart. But if I'm looking at Morant, I'm looking at Desmond Bane, I'm looking at Smart, I'm looking at Jaren Jackson Jr., and if Edey can give them something in the middle, that's going to be a very interesting team to keep your eye on.
It's a lot easier to make up for your mistakes when you're 7'4", Napes.
Oh, boy. I wouldn't know, but thank you.
But, here's the thing. Those guards are hard enough to chase around, but you got a guy like Edey that's thick, built well, and durable, has not had many injuries throughout his career. That's going to be a tough night for perimeter defenders. I don't care if you're Keon Ellis. I don't care if you're one of the better defending guards in the NBA. That is a hard ask night in, night out.
Johnny, I love Skal Labissiere, but he's not going to be guarding Kevin Durant, and he's not going to be on the floor to get a chance to guard Kevin Durant. So that's not happening. He may not even be on the team.
Yeah, that Grant, that might be one of those where Skal wouldn't score a point. Not because Skal isn't skilled. It's just you're talking about two different worlds there, John.
I remember Skal in his rookie year having a career high against Phoenix, and I actually went overboard on on my radio show the next day because he looked like an all-star on the court, and that was the best game he had of his career. I'm a huge fan of Skal. Yes. I love the man, but I mean, he obviously has limitations. He's not going to be on the floor guarding Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and you know what? Scout does not have to be on this Sacramento Kings roster to still help this Sacramento Kings team. He has done wonders down in Stockton, helping get some of these younger guards ready, getting them a look with the screen and rolls, the DHOs, so when they come up to Sacramento, they have the opportunity, if they get minutes, to step in and be familiar with the system.
All right, good to have everyone here. And I always like to do a rant with Grant, and it is brought to you by EDH Motors Automotive Reimagined. Let me give you the website. You can get more information if you go to info@edhmotors.com. This is a long overdue new concept. No obligation to any franchise or big corporation. Just two people, David and Adam, trying to do something different and better. Now, here's what they do. They offer new vehicle brokerage. They also offer vehicle consignments where they sell your vehicle for you. And of course, they can buy your car and they'll sell pre-owned vehicles, even your RV or boat. You know what else is awesome? You'll take delivery at their auto lounge in El Dorado Hills. So you don't have to go to the dealership. You don't have to talk to a salesperson. No pressure by the manager. You're not getting squeezed into the F&I office. It is awesome. And again, if you go to info@edhmotors.com, you'll get all the information you need. Once again, that's info@edhmotors.com. All right. So my rant today, you saw it last night, Thursday Night Football. Punt. Did it hit the finger of the Seahawk return man? Well, my eyes said it did. Your eyes say it did. Everyone that was looking at it said it did, except for the replay center. And then on the telecast, on Amazon Prime, they have to tell us that the replay center didn't have the same look that TV had, or they didn't have the look that they needed. That shouldn't happen. I've been to the NBA replay center in Secaucus. They have every single bell and whistle to zoom in. They see things that you don't get a chance to see when you're watching it on TV. How the hell does that happen? How can the National Football League, with millions and millions, billions of dollars bet on their product, over-unders, prop bets, everything else. How the hell can the league allow that to happen? That can't happen. We all saw it. How is it that that is not determined by looking at replay? Now, I understand that replay is not 100% effective, and I understand that we all get, upset sometimes, but come on, where the hell's the common sense there? Got to do better, NFL. You got to do better. It's 2024. It's not 1945. Get the damn system going, make the right call, and let's move on. And that's my rant for today.
It's funny because the NBA Replay Center, Grant, good job, by the way. You sometimes see it on national TV. They give you the look in while they're reviewing the play. Same thing with some of the other leagues. You don't get that with the NFL. You don't.
I don't understand it. I don't. I haven't been to the NFL Replay Center, but I've been to the NBA Replay, and I've also been to the MLB Replay Center, which is phenomenal as well. I've been to both, and it's very interesting. The broadcasters, 6-7 years ago at the NBA Replay Center, actually we had to sit in the replay chair and use the equipment and determine. They would put a play up for us and we would have to determine what the call was. So we all did that. It was very interesting. So I got kind of a firsthand look about everything that they have. And they have all types of angles and the ability to zoom and this and that. So generally speaking, they're going to get it right.
Yeah, that is a cool experience. Lights. I want to address this, Grant, really quick, and we can kick this around. The Warriors commentators thought that it helps the opponent if Sabonis is taking 5 threes a game. Here's what I'll say. He is stepping into that jump shot confidently. And the jump shot from the mid-range, he's knocking it down. Now, shooting the 3, I don't know if you want 5. Coach Brown has said between 3 and 5. But I think you need to have at least 3, and here's why. It keeps the defense honest. It keeps him from sagging off. In limited attempts, he has shot it well. Grant, your take.
The 3 is a very important part of the NBA game today. And I believe it has to do with feel, shot selection, determining what the score of the game is. Mm-hmm. How much time is on the clock? Is it within the flow of the offense? So it's not just a blanket statement. Yes, he needs to take this number.
Sure.
It's when are those threes being taken in the context of the game, the momentum of the game, and everything else. I'm with you on keeping the defense honest. If you have Sabonis on the perimeter and you don't have to guard him, well, that makes it much more difficult to score. So
Exactly
I'm
right.
okay with him taking some threes. 5 may be a little too much for my taste. I mean, to be honest with you, because he's so effective down low and his passing and everything else. So if you told me the over-under on threes a game for him would be 3.5, I'd want it to be under.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I would probably go under 2 as well on a nightly basis. I think that's right about the correct number. And, you know, coach talked about this a couple days ago in practice. They have crash zones. So it's not like Sabonis, hey, you're going to the glass every time. It depends where you are on the floor, and you're getting back or you're going in. So obviously, you want them down low, but you saw the difference tonight where the Kings were initiating their offense compared to where they initiated it on opening night. It was at the elbow, free throw line extended. Tonight, it was much further out.
I just believe last year, one of the biggest issues that I had with the Kings was shot selection based on score and time of the game.
Great point.
It just, how many times did we come on talking about 3 or 4 critical possessions where the Kings rushed a shot, where they needed to settle down and get a good possession to stop a run, to slow down the momentum of the other team, and they come down and they jack up a shot with 20 seconds on the clock, and the other team's running back the other way on a fast break. I mean, it happened way too often last year. And I think it cost the Kings some games last year.
It did. And I think that's where DeMar DeRozan helps you in this sense. I think De'Aaron Fox, and I'm going to highlight him for this point of the conversation. You had so few creators, especially at the end of the season, Grant. I think De'Aaron thought this is probably the best look I'm going to get in the shot clock, even if it's at the start of the shot clock. And you've seen how well he's done now catching and shooting. His percentage last year was about 43% catching and shooting. So I think you saw, and he had a couple tonight, that opens it up more, but you're spot on about the selection.
Well, I'm just happy that we're in talking about basketball. We're going to be with you all season long. We have got a lot of nice things planned for you. Also, I've got some new merch that's going to be coming out very soon, right? Looking forward to that. Yeah.
You're going to be having it on opening night. It's going to be up in the website probably within the next week. So we're hoping that you check that out, grantnapier.com, if you don't like that.com.
Yes, indeed. And then football weekend, college, there's some really good games to Oregon and Ohio State. That's going to be a dandy.
Should be a good one. Which Oregon team's going to show up? The start of the season or the Oregon team that's playing pretty damn good right now?
I know I'm going to upset a lot of Oregon fans. I have no confidence in Oregon when it comes to the biggest of games. I just don't. I'm sorry. And I know a lot of I know we have a lot of fans from, alums and everything, but it just seems to me whenever Oregon's in a really big game, more times than not, they disappoint.
But it's okay, Grant. They always look really good. They've got the coolest uniforms.
Oh, my gosh.
How about the NFL, Washington and Baltimore names?
Oh, boy. This is, to me, the first real test that Washington has had, and their rookie quarterback and Jaden Daniels. I think Washington's going to come back down to earth a little bit. I don't know if they're quite ready for this.
Okay, interesting. I'm looking at that Washington defense.
Yeah.
If Washington's defense can hold a little bit with Baltimore, because Baltimore has given up a lot of points. Last week, it was a shootout. A couple weeks ago, a shootout. So that's going to be a fun one, though, for sure. 2 very similar quarterbacks that could be on very similar paths.
Hey, I want to tell you about Sunrise Landing, the newest residential community in Colusa. And if you go to ColusaSunrise.com, you can check everything out. This project from Blazona Development. Again, it's Sunrise Landing in Colusa. No Mellorews, no homeowners on these beautiful models, various lot sizes, adjacent to the Colusa Golf and Country Club. Good access, I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. Again, all you need to do is go to ColusaSunrise.com, and you'll get all the information you need at beautiful Sunrise Landing. I hope you have a good weekend, buddy.
You as well. Really quick, I gotta bring this up from Arturo. We're weak at the point guard position. Hope we don't get hurt. Yes, you can't miss any time without Fox. But Grant, I've been kicking this around the last week. Do the Kings have a true point guard on their roster?
Not really. No,
they don't.
No.
Well, we haven't seen McLaughlin, so
Right.
maybe. But that's an interesting thing to me.
Yeah, very interesting question.
Good job.
All right, buddy. You have a fabulous weekend.
You as well, my friend. Looking forward to next week and more Kings basketball, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay safe, everyone. Enjoy your football, your baseball, your basketball. It's all going on this weekend, and we'll be here to talk about it all week next week right here on If You Don't Like That. Until next time, so long, everybody.